Bantamweight contender Juan Archuleta faces off against Patrick Mix. Both men looking to take home their first Bellator world title. We'll take a deep dive into this fight. Hard-nosed veteran John Fitch is set to take on submission artist Gracie. We'll dissect this matchup. Liz Carmouche will take on Bennett. Both flyweights are set to make their Bellator debut. And rounding out the main card will be Campos taking in Keone Diggs. Diggs steps in last minute to replace an injured Roger Huerta. All this plus more as Bellator MMA presents A Dose. What's happening, guys? Welcome to part 2 of The Dose. I am Chael Sonnen playing Chael Sonnen. I am joined with Robin Black. Robin, how are you, buddy? Listen, we're going to take a deep dive. We're going to look into Bellator 246, and we got a world championship on the line. Archuleta versus Mix. Take it from here, partner. Say hello to everybody.
Hello, everybody. Chael, have you been working out like decline flies or something? You look stocky. You look svelte.
I don't know why you ask. Why do you ask the question? You know what, Robin? Tighter shirts, okay? If you don't have time to lift, just wash the shirt on hot.
Yeah, they send me these ones for every episode. Nice and clean. Yeah, you're right. Nice and tight. I look like a featherweight now.
Oh, by the way, while we're talking about this and Chael's overly large arms and your new t-shirt, I have an idea. Why don't you tell me what you think about Archuleta versus Mix? Because the world title's on the line, partner.
Yeah, I mean, I'm into it, right? Like, this is a killer fight. It's the best bantamweight fight. One of the great bantamweight fights in the world you can make right now, right? Patrick Mix, it's interesting. He's undefeated. Of course, we always get excited about that. He's fought, 6 minutes in the Bellator cage? He hasn't absorbed one meaningful punch. He can get to your back or ride the leg and start to attack you. The one submission he's pulled off a few times, once in Bellator, the Suloev stretch, tearing apart a guy's groin. I mean, he's a very, very bad dude when he's on you. But if I'm Juan Archuleta, the goal is don't let him on me and make sure he absorbs at least one and maybe hundreds of meaningful punches because he hasn't had that experience at the high levels yet. Juan Archuleta wants to give him that experience.
Sure, and there's always something to be said for momentum. And I think you could have a meaningful conversation where you continue to crash into the same wall, trying to decide who has the momentum on their side. I mean, you've got Mix, as you were talking about, not a complete 6 minutes, but's been in there plenty of times and finds all sorts of different ways to put you down. But you also have Archuleta. I mean, look, there's something to be said for been there, done that. He has fought for a championship, and whether it went his way or not, he went 25 minutes. He made the weight class. He went through the training camp. Am I making too much of this? How do you see that?
I mean, it's a massive experience difference. Not just minutes in a cage, not just minutes on the mat, traveling the world, being around all these novel experiences. Just that. Like, Archuleta was a not one, not two, not three, 4 division champion in a meaningful mixed martial arts league that comes up on his way up towards Bellator. He's been there. He's had the light shone on him. He's heard his name introduced fighting for a world title. All of those things matter. The pressure that you interpret and the pressure that you carry when you are trying to throw punches and kicks is added from all of those novel experiences. And there's going to be a lot of novel experiences for Patrick Mix. You're not making too much of it. The experience is a massive difference.
Yeah, there's something to be said for a will. And I remember where I was the very first time I saw Archuleta compete. I was in Thackerville, Oklahoma, and Archuleta comes out and he had this incredible record. I mean, it was like 21-1 or 22-1. I was looking at it just on paper going, man, that's a lot of fights to get right. He goes down and he was gritty and grimy and he pushed the pace the entire minute. I mean, he went as hard in the 15th minute as he did in the very first minute, but that's meaningful. You can see those kinds of things as a fellow fighter and go, wow, this guy's well prepared and he wants it. But you have this intangible in the will versus an expectation, which Mix has. Mix just doesn't know any different. Mix expects to go out there, do his thing, and get his hand raised.
When you go, and your heart is racing and the cortisol levels are all weird in your body and the world sounds different, and you run across the cage and you impose your will and it goes your way, and at the end everybody freaks out and the ring card girls wink at you and it all goes your way, you believe maybe that can keep going. You've seen no evidence to the contrary. He's going to be presented potentially with evidence to the contrary. He's going to be put in difficult situations. He's going to find himself having to overcome things. He's going to be punched in the face really, really hard in front of people on television all over the world. Yes, he's had those experiences at Greg Jackson's gym with the best in the world. This is different. Can Patrick Mix submit Juan Archuleta? Of course he can. This kid's real. But he has to go in there and prove it. He has to do it. And it is a fascinating fight. If we see a round 2 and a round 3, all of that at this level is new to Patrick Mix.
Robin, you succeeded at one thing, partner. You got me fired up. So, Robin, when we look at the bantamweight world title fight, okay, we understand that, but whenever you have a title fight, the rest of the division has what's known as contenders season. Everybody's trying to emerge, and it appears that Bellator is giving great respect to the division. By example, signing of Sergio Pettis, some of the matchups, some of the bookings, even the main event spot that this title fight's going to have.
Yeah, I mean, it's a killer division. You could sit there and argue whether 205 is the best division in Bellator or bantamweight is, but I mean, there's a lot of killer young fighters. Sergio Pettis, of course. Keith Lee is a dynamite young fighter. And then you've got some established real guys. Ricky Banderas, who's going to play that gatekeeper role right now because he has lost to Patrick Mix and he lost to Sergio Pettis. So you're going to have to get by him. Josh Hill, high-level guy. You know, this is a killer division. These are fantastic, high-level fighters. Juan Archuleta is the guy to beat, and Patrick Mix is the guy up to try first.
Yeah, I think that's right. And I do think Sergio Pettis, particularly with his last performance, and particularly going out there and getting stoppages. I mean, look, stopping guys is very hard to do. Stopping guys at 135 with strikes is a rare thing to do. Now, I'm not throwing my hat in the ring who the top contender would be, but I will tell you in fairness who I think the man to beat is.
And who's that?
Oh, I'm sorry. Sergio Pettis. Did I bury my lead there? Yeah. Sergio Pettis, Robin. I'm fucking Sergio here.
Yeah, man. Sergio Pettis will fight the winner. You know, 1, he looked phenomenal coming into Bellator. 2, he's a Pettis. He's an interesting, fascinating kid, an inspiring kid. That's kind of another part of this division, too. Keith Lee's another one of these guys, young guys, and Patrick Mix, dreaming of world titles. And one of them's going to come in here and get it. You know, whether Archuleta defeats Mix at this point or Mix is the kid, the undefeated kid, you know, arguing that he's the best bantamweight on planet Earth, we got a nice place to start here. Darian Caldwell was the champion. Horiguchi took that from him. He became injured. Caldwell's fighting for the featherweight. If you're a bantamweight on planet Earth right now, this is your time.
All right, Robin. John Fitch versus Neiman Gracie. The fight that got away now has a date.
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir. Fitch got the draw against Rory McDonald. If he had won that fight, he would have fought Neiman Gracie. It's an interesting fight. This is one of those ones that gets fight fans really excited. You know, when you grow up, you want to be John Fitch. You know, tough and rugged and can handle anything and smash your way through things. John Fitch doesn't try to tunnel under a wall or climb over a wall or disassemble it. He tries to smash through it with grit and hard work. And Neiman Gracie, of the two, with all due respect to John Fitch, will be the thinker, trying to outthink John Fitch. It's a fascinating dynamic of a fight.
Sure. And there was a time when I think you would agree with me. You're talking about position versus submission. Mm-hmm. That argument kind of went out. When I look at Neiman Gracie, I got to go back to the quarterfinals of the tournament when he took on Ed Ruth. We saw him with a couple of takedowns that stunned us all. We also saw him with 2 different reversals that stunned us all. Ultimately, he gets the win. Ultimately, it's even by submission. He stops the undefeated streak. The only reason I offer that is because John Fitch likes to play that same game. He likes to get on top. He likes to do control. He's very good with the defense. He's very good at understanding a 10-9 must system. It's not to say that Fitch can't go out and do what Ruth did, but do it a little bit longer. But in all fairness, it's also not quite that simple when you're talking about Neiman.
No, it really isn't. And you're right. Expectation really can cause problems. If you think you can out-wrestle somebody and the last thing in the world you're prepared to do is deal with the fact that they're going to attack some low single on you, you can make that work. And John Fitch, though, he carries one other element. And when I say this, I can guarantee you our editors will drop a particular piece of B-roll right in here right now. John Fitch can get kicked in the head by Rory McDonald and still go through and grab the thigh, right? That's an element that's always there with John Fitch. He's going to handle whatever you throw at him, and he's going to keep grinding and keep keep pushing and keep going. And that's what Neiman will have to deal with. Neiman, the goal is to be breathing and staying calm and not trying to make it about resilience and guts and try to outthink the man and walk him into bad positions and try to access his neck.
Sure. And, as much as I dote on Neiman for surprising us in that fight with Ed Ruth, coming out with some offense that we didn't know we have and showing some durability. I got to give the same credit when you look at Fitch versus Rory. When you look at that game plan and when you look at that strategy, when you look at how much he wanted to win and how much he had studied and understood his opponent. I'm talking about Fitch really understanding Rory and coming out and showing us. You can't dismiss that when you're looking at a 15-minute fight. Both these fights we were talking about were scheduled for 25 minutes. When you start talking about 15 minutes, you're talking about a different dynamic.
100%, man. All of us, again, Neiman has all kinds of tools to choke out John Fitch. But John Fitch at 15 minutes can literally sprint, recover, but it's a 40-second sprint and a 10-second recovery. And that starts to push you back. It taxes your anaerobic system. And that's another weapon that John Fitch has. But as you're driving forward, you're pushing, you're sprinting, there's, a nimble Gracie can pop his way onto your back and block the blood flow from the arteries to the brain. The brain needs oxygenated hemoglobin to keep working, and he just shuts that thing down. So the dynamic of this is really, really interesting, and I can't wait for it.
Let me ask you one question. This is just between you and me, the internet, and I will tell absolutely nobody else. Does John Fitch strategically want to take Neiman down?
Very, very good question.
Hard question, right?
Very hard, very hard question. The answer to that is maybe. The answer to that is jab his face out and make him come forward. And then when he comes forward, it's a little easier to be on top. But I think he'll also, if we called him up right now, he might lie to us. But I think deep down in the back of his mind, he would like that test of pushing the half guard, grinding his shoulder into the jaw and shoving it over to the side and saying, I can top game this guy. I think he'd like that. Like I said, he might lie and lie to us right in front of the internet and you and me. But I think deep down, he'd like to try that. I think he'd like that test.
All right. Liz Carmouche is going to be taking on Deanna Bennett. And there's really no way to look at this, Robin, without thinking, man, this might be a bit of a contenders match. These signings make the commitment that Bellator has made to the flyweight female division even more relevant. You got Alima Lay McFarland. Huge star. We've seen her sell out arenas. We've seen the crowds come over, but somebody has to fight her. By the way, Robin, before you answer this question, if I may share with you, Alima Lay and Carmouche actually trained together. They've been asked the same question, and guess what they said? Let's do it.
People do this with their training partners all the time. If you want to respect your training partner, you want to respect your friend, a fellow martial artist, you give them the best fight you can give them.
Honestly, ideally, what I would hope for is she's already the belt holder. She's earned her way. She's fought multiple times to defend it. She's showed that she deserves to have the belt. And my ideal situation is, like I said, I want to show and work my way up through the division. So what better than having a tournament where we compete in the tournament to be the contender to fight her for the belt. And that's what I think is best case scenario.
Alima Lay needs Liz Carmouche. She needs names. She needs people to challenge her. She needs to be pushed. But Carmouche and Bennett is a difficult fight. Bennett is no pushover. She comes in from Invicta, has defeated some very real fighters, actually has a similar record to Carmouche. But the big difference of the record is the people that Carmouche has fought have named like Ronda and Valentina and Misha, like champions. And that's the part that if you're Bennett, you've never fought somebody with this level, of competition.
Yeah, and that becomes a real question, that mindset. Does Bennett respect that, or does she dismiss it? Does she think, well, your time was then and my time was now? It's very real. The approach is a very real thing. Robin, as you know, if you get into a tournament, a bracket, a fight, a sporting event of any kind, and things start to go better for you than maybe you thought they were going to go, but you didn't believe it ahead of time, it's too late. And you might have some good moments and you might surprise yourself, but you're not going to flip the script, not enough. I just think it's a fair question. I think Bennett has a real opportunity here, and I can all but assure you she knows who Carmouche is, and I think she's likely to respect her. So, Robin, let me set the table for you. Alima Lay McFarland, champion of the world. Liz Carmouche, a very clear up-and-comer, and they have both said, if the time comes, let's do it. But let me ask you a question. Can teammates fight and still be friends?
Have you ever fought a friend, Chael? Do you have friends? Chael, do you have friends?
Yeah. I have not had to fight a friend, but I have wrestled. I have competed with friends, and I will tell you, people will say this, Robin, and you've heard it a million times. Well, we do it every day in practice. Why don't we go out there and you do it when it really matters? There is a little bit of truth to that. As I look at Alima Lay and she says, yeah, let's do it. Look, Robin, imagine she said the other thing. Is she essentially saying, I don't want Liz to win? Right. I don't want Liz to be elevated? I mean, even if you have to cross that bridge at a further point, shouldn't you at least say the right things before the contract's offered?
Yeah, you make a lot of good points, as you often do. But yes, I believe you can. Now, one thing you said, you have not fought a friend, but you wrestled a friend. Yes, you're competing. You're taking away their chance to achieve their goal that day. So that's real. But you never kicked a friend in the face as hard as you can, right? You never punched somebody and it landed on their throat. You never knocked their ear off. You know, you never smashed up their body. Yes, wrestling's an incredibly physical thing. And I think that can potentially change. Imagine having a scar all the way across your face and knowing that Chael Sonnen did that to you. I think we'd still be friends if you scarred me. I really do.
Hey, I think you make a fair point in the comparison to wrestling. It was just the only one I have. That's the only time I've competed. But you're right. There's a big difference in trying to score points as opposed to trying to damage. It just seems like the verbiage is very real as you go through this space. I mean, I can look at the scrap pack when you're talking about Gilbert Melendez and the Diaz boys and Jake Shields. And man, that thing was so tight. If you even came to the media and spoke cross, the loyalty and their feel, everything would be hurt. And then you go to the Team Quest where I came from, and that's just what we did. I mean, we did it every day. We came up as wrestlers. Sometimes we did cross paths. I had to wrestle Matt Lindland. Dan Henderson and Matt Lindland had to wrestle me. It's just we're on the bracket. Randy's. It was just one of these things. You'll remember a great fight that was made through the media. John Jones, teammates with Rashad Evans. Rashad was the champion of the world, and John was this great up-and-comer. And somewhere along the way, they always said, no, we'd never do it. And one of them did an interview, and I think it was Jones, and said, well, yeah, I guess we would. And Rashad's like, oh, really? And then they had to go do it. I mean, just by example, there's kind of a code in the gym, Robin.
Yep, and they ain't friends no more. But is it possible to do it and be friends? I think the answer to that is yes, because we've also seen that. We've seen that big hug from two people who smashed each other's faces and just ranting about how much they love and respect each other after. So I think it's possible, but I think it's very personal. And your examples of Team Quest and Scrap Pack, I think, show both sides of that.
Derek Campos going to be taking on Keone Diggs. Robin, little twist on this. Diggs completely undefeated, 8-0, stepping in on short notice. My question to you, is that wise to put an undefeated record on the line against Derek on such short notice?
Yeah, and I think the answer is, if you're Diggs, and your people like Diggs, you're undefeated, you're waiting for your chance. Waiting, I mean, this is a word that gets overused like crazy, for your opportunity. Well, here it is. It's Saturday night. It's sitting right there. It's Campos. Now you're fighting one of the names in Bellator. And we all, a lot of the world is full of people saying, I could have done it if only I got my opportunity. And this kid gets his opportunity. So what do you say? No, you take it, you do it. And there are many examples of stepping up and not quite being there, but that being the key element to achieving the next level and the next level and the next level after. And there's lots of examples of winning that as it's presented and then moving on and carrying on and achieving your goals that way. You have to say yes. If you're not going to say yes to it, what the hell are you doing here?
Sure. And Robin, is that even fair by you and I? I mean, in many ways, do we just put pressure on him? I mean, to come out and say that he's putting an undefeated record on the line, I don't know if that's really true. I've never heard of a match about a record. I mean, I've never heard of such a thing. Maybe we're putting a little unfair pressure. Look, it's a tough fight. He's got to go to a tough fight. Isn't that a better way to say it?
For sure. And ultimately, there's a space in which you do combat, and there's a body type and a collection of skills. Records and rankings and all that stuff doesn't need to matter. The thing is, it does creep into the back of the head because it's real, right? But I mean, you're undefeated and undisputed. Does that add extra pressure to you?
Under the real rules, there's some nuances within the unified rules, glitches and whatnot, but you make a fair point. So, Robin, as you look at Campos, who's kind of a fan favorite, right? Gritty, tough, and he does everything right. He is coming off a loss. He ran headfirst into a brick wall called A.J. McKee. 15 men have tried to beat McKee. 15 men have failed. How can Campos recover?
He hurt AJ. You know, he had his moments. The thing is, Campos is Campos. When he goes into a fight, he's a Chael Sonnen type of fighter. He's the type of fighter guys like you love. He's going to go in there with his hard hat and his work boots and his lunch bucket, and he's going to try to smash your face in. You know, he'll fight exactly the same coming off a loss to AJ McKee as he will coming off 6 wins in a row. That's the beauty of him. It's also, you know, a detriment. If you're looking at him like Keone is, you're like, I think I know who this guy is, and I think I know what I prepare for, and I know how to approach it. So there's good and bad in everything.
Robin, this was fun. I hope we meet again in this fashion. And for the rest of you, thank you for tuning in to part 2 of The Dose. Do not miss Bellator 246, Saturday, September 12th on the Paramount Network. This has been another episode of Bellator MMA Presents The Dose.